applications like automotive radiators, condensers and evaporators in refrigeration we have studied. What is their function? Already we have covered that. And cooling of electrical and electronic circuits. Okay, we have to discuss. Right. So first we will start with what are the different modes of heat transfer. Some are the other application here and there we have discussed this modes clearly. Right. So what is heat transfer? It is the movement of heat energy from one substance to another substance. Okay. What is the direction of flow of heat? Usually from a hotter substance to cooler substance, correct? See, for example, any fluid tends to move from high pressure to low pressure, correct? That is why when you open your tap from lower tank, water rushes down, right? High pressure to low pressure. Similarly, heat always tends to move from higher temperature body to lower temperature body. I keep a cup of hot coffee here, in 10 minutes it gets cooled down. Heat is dissipated to atmosphere. There are three different modes of heat transfer. Okay, so first one is conduction. What can you see in that sketch? See, there is a bunch of wood sticks. We have lit a fire to it. Heat is generated. Heat can dissipate in three modes. First mode is called as conduction. What is happening there? Here there is one metal rod. A person is holding the metal rod. Okay, one end of the rod gets heated. Obviously, please maintain silence. At the initial moment, the other end will be cooler. Am I right? Yes or no? After some time, you will start feeling the heat. Here, what is happening there? Heat is conducted from one end of the metal to the other end of the metal. This is called as conduction. Actually, what happens here? See, any metal, if you take, there will be some valence electrons. Correct? When you supply heat, okay, they will energize from lower level to higher level. They will jump to the higher levels. This is first thing. And the atoms in this keeps on vibrating. Whenever heat is applied, the vibration intensity increases. Just please listen and understand. We have a set of atoms here. Okay, they will be vibrating. When you supply heat, the intensity of vibration will be more. That intensity will be passed on to the next atom. The next atom starts vibrating at a higher rate. It gets heated up. Again, it will be passed on to next. Over a period of time, heat starts flowing from one end to another. Okay, so this is called as conduction. There is a conductor who can allow the heat from one end to the other end. Next, the second mode of heat transfer is convection. How convection heat transfer takes place? We have discussed two modes of convection. One is natural and one is forced. Correct? I have given you two examples. A cup of hot coffee, which is kept open here, it may take 15 minutes to cool to atmospheric temperature. If I keep it beneath the fan, it may take only 2 or 3 minutes. What is happening in the first case? We call it as natural convection. The top layer of coffee comes in contact with air. Yes or no? So air picks up the heat. Once it picks up the heat, the density of air drops. Because of buoyancy effect, the air tries to float up. The fresh air again comes into picture. Yes or no? Over a period of time, convection current forms so that your coffee gets cooled up. It will take a lot of time to happen naturally. Whereas if you blow a fan, what happens here will be forcibly moving on to the first layer of coffee so that heat will be picked up at a faster rate. We call it as forced convection. The rate of heat transfer will be more in forced convection. It will be less in natural convection. That is why in natural convection it takes more time. The third mode is radiation. Okay, without any medium. Here some atoms are required to carry the heat. Yes or no? Yes. Here we need air as a medium. If you keep the same thing in vacuum, heat cannot convect. Yes or no? But without any medium, because of the radiation waves, the heat gets transferred. How does the heat reach from Earth, sun to Earth? What is the mode there? Radiation. Air cannot carry such an amount of heat from space to Earth. Correct? So these are the three modes of heat transfer. Right? We will define one after the other in detail. Right? First one we will start with conduction only. So what is happening in this bar? The red color represents a hot zone and blue color represents a relatively cold zone. right? So heat energy always moves from a warm body to a cool body. This is the law of nature, right? Okay, so heat will continue to move until both the bodies reach the same temperature. For example, I keep a cup of coffee open here. After 15 minutes, the heat transfer ceases. Why? Because the coffee and your room temperature. Say, for example, we have 30 degrees Celsius in this kind of room. Okay, once the coffee reaches 30 degrees, the air in your room as well as the coffee temperature both will be 30. When there is no temperature difference, there will be no question of heat transfer. Until the temperature difference is there, the heat transfer keeps on happening, right? There are three modes as we discussed. One is conduction. It is a method of heat transfer in solids only, right? Wherever there are free electrons, right? They are called as good conductors of heat. You may ask a next question, why wood can't conduct? There are no free electrons. Only because of lattice vibrations. Vibration of molecules, only to a little distance it can transfer the heat. By the time this will burn up. Correct? This is not a good conductor of heat. Whereas metal, if you take a lot of free electrons are there, plus lattice vibrations. Means atom gets vibrating in its lattice at a higher frequency, it will pass on the vibration to the next person. For example, one of you are using mobile, the next person feels, why can't I use this, class is boring. Over a period of time, if some faculty is towards bored, everybody will start using. One end to other end, easily it moves off, right? So convection is a method in which directly, say for example, coffee if you take, there should be some medium like air, okay, which comes in contact with coffee, it picks up the heat and it goes away. Okay. So third is the radiation where no medium is required at all. Because of the electromagnetic waves that are radiated from a hot substance, radiation will transfer can take place. Okay. The first example is conduction. You can see one animation I have put to make you understand. You are supplying the heat, right? At initially, what happens at step 2? Let me check whether I can pause it. No, it's not possible. See, at step 2, only a small portion of atoms are red in color. What can you understand from this? They are very hot compared to the surrounding atoms. So what happens? This is the lattice structure of this metal rod. Okay, when you supply heat here, okay, the initial ones become hot, they start vibrating. They pass on that vibration frequency to the next atom. Over a period of time, they pass into the third, fourth, so on, so that you can feel heat from one end to the other end. Right? Here we have a medium. One is lattice vibration, or sometimes if there are valence electrons, directly they jump onto the other end to higher energy levels. Right? We need metal as a medium to conduct heat from one end. Heat transfer by conduction is the transfer of heat through direct contact. If atoms are in direct contact with each other, then only the vibrations can pass. Right? Okay. So molecules transfer energy from them to the next molecule to the next and so on. So this is called as conduction. What is the medium here? The molecules in the metal structure, whatever are there, it is the medium. Clear? Now in this example, what is happening here? It is an example of conduction, right? So we have one mug of very hot water, one mug of very cold water. There is a copper bracket which we have placed. Initially what happens? In the warm water, whatever copper bracket is dipped in, it gets heated faster. Why? Because it is a very good conductor of heat. See, some metals, for example, iron if you take, okay, it has some conductivity. We use a word called as thermal conductivity. For example, the thermal conductivity of iron is 175 kilojoules per kg Kelvin. Every 1 kg of iron can transfer 175 units of heat, whereas copper can transfer 400 units of heat. What can you understand? It has more number of free electrons. Easily it can transfer from one end to another. I can give you one simple example. Next, whenever you perform some puja, okay, you will be giving arati, right? You will light the camper. You do it in a brass, which is available in shop for 30 or 40 rupees. Okay, whatever vessel is there, in that you keep camper and light it. After 5-6 minutes also you can't feel the heat. You take silver one. You light it, within 2-3 minutes your hand gets burned off, because silver is a better conductor. It will shift the heat at a faster rate. Right? Practically you can test it. Similarly here what is happening? The copper bracket at one end gets heated up at a faster rate. Okay. So when the electron starts vibrating, it will pass the heat to the other section. Okay, so initially what happens, the water will be cold. After some time, this water becomes little bit hotter, this becomes cold. Here, what is the medium of heat transfer? Again, the copper bracket. Parallelly, convection may also take place. If it is kept in a evacuated where there is no air, there will be no convection. Only conduction will be taking place. If I keep it in open air, some amount of heat will be lost because of convection also. So this is one example of conduction. Are you clear? So this is called as conduction mode of heat transfer. Next. What is radiation? As I told you, heat transfer by radiation is the transfer of heat through electromagnetic waves. Okay, highly energized body will emit some waves, electromagnetic waves. Because of that electromagnetic waves, the energy in the hot body gets lost and heat will be dissipated. This is called as the radiation mode of heat transfer. There will be no direct contact. In the first case, we saw atoms are in direct contact. That is why heat is getting transferred. In convection, some medium like air is there. That is why it is getting transferred. Here, if you keep a metal rod in a totally evacuated, after some time slowly the temperature reduces. Why? Because it is radiating the heat in the form of electromagnetic. This is called as the radiation mode of heat transfer. You can see one example I have quoted here. Heat from sun radiates through empty space, through the vacuum to the earth. There is no any mode here. We don't have any series of metal rods which are carrying heat. We don't have a direct air connection, air medium which is connecting earth and sun, but still we are getting heat that is in the form of electromagnetic. This mode of heat transfer, we call it as radiation. So just we need to discuss about the definition and we will give some examples for better understanding. Here, so we have completed conduction and radiation. Which is the third mode? Convection heat transfer. Two examples I have put. What does the first one represent? It is natural convection. Correct? You have a tumbler of water, you are heating it, then after some time it gets hot, you will switch off this fire. After 10-15 minutes, the temperature keeps on dropping. For example, you want to take bath, okay, you will switch on the tap, hot water will be there in bucket. Okay, you will be watching TV after 1 hour you go, it will not be up to the mark for taking the bath, correct? By natural convection, heat would have been lost, right? So what happens here? One is the topmost layer, which is in direct contact with the air, will transfer its heat to the air. What happens to the air? When air is heated, its density decreases. This is the natural phenomena. We have studied in steam also. You keep on heating this water, its phase changes to vapor. Density drops rapidly. Correct? So when the air density drops, that air will try to escape into the atmosphere. The heavier air comes down. Right? Parallelly, the topmost layer of water particles, which were hot, becomes denser, higher density. It will lose its heat, so the density increases. Is it correct? So that the blue color droplets are dropping down. When they come down, because of buoyancy, the hot water particles will try to move. Two sets of currents are formed here. One is here water molecules keep on forming a current here. High temperature water tends to move up, low temperature water